Do you think it is acceptable that we have a voting system under which most of us are represented in Parliament by people we voted against? What is your party's policy on first past the post? Mr. Ashley.
The Green Party is against first past the post because we had 1 million people voted for our party last year and we had no representatives in government to have the voice of, so the voice of 1 million Canadians was not heard in Parliament, so we're definitely against first past the post. And also we would like more women in politics. It's one of our mandates to help women get involved in politics. There's over half the nation is, or over 50% of the population is women, and the percentage in government is very little, as you can see by the panel here tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Bruce?
That's a very good question, and I'll echo Albert's comments on the fact, if you look at the last general election, the Greens had close to 1 million votes and got 0 seats. The Bloc had just over 1 million and got 50 seats. The NDP got 2.5 million and got 36 seats. So we know there's a problem there, and definitely the NDP is proposing to have discussions and work on a new electoral system that better reflects how people vote. And I'd also like to add to Albert's comment about having the fairer sex more represented. We're very proud of the fact that of the 308 ridings in Canada, we have 123 women running for the NDP.
Mr. Albright?
Thank you. As it relates to proportional representation, at this point, certainly I see the merits of allowing some type of mixed proportional representation. When you look at the examples of the Green Party and the Bloc only is represented in one province. That doesn't seem fair that they can have that many votes and still end up with that number of seats. However, proportional representation also creates a number of challenges. If, for example, the Green Party was to have 1 member of Parliament elected on a proportional basis, it would mean that that person was responsible now to represent the entire country. In my situation, I represent 120,000 people here in Kitchener-Conestoga, and there's no way I can get in contact with all of them. But that problem is actually multiplied when you have a proportional representation system. I visited Israel a number of years ago, and every member of the Knesset there represents the entire country based on party. And so there's not the same kind of personal interaction with a local constituency that we are fortunate to have here. So, and also the other thing you need to remember is Ontario rejected the proportional representation just a few years ago.
Yeah, I was going to start where Harold left off. Ontario had a commission that seriously looked at proportional representation. The more they got into it and the more they consulted with the public, the more the challenges were in trying to make it to be perceived fair. Clearly there needs to be some discussion about electoral reform, but it's not really clear what what form it would take in the end. I think it's very important that you have local representation, riding representation, for example, as you do in the House of Commons. I'm a bit familiar with the Japanese system where they have a lower diet, which is like the House of Commons. The upper diet is like our Senate. The Senate there is elected on a national basis. And while that might not be appropriate for Canada, I think in terms of Senate reform, something like that might be looked at.